Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studio. Hey, listen, if you're looking to purchase that perfect piece of land or hunting property, upgrade your farm equipment, or even have a dream of owning a slice of heaven out in the country, look no further than Mississippi Land Bank for your financing needs. For more than 100 years, farming families and landowners in North Mississippi have turned to Mississippi Land Bank for all kinds of financial solutions, whether it's for land, equipment, or livestock. For more information, visit mslandbank.com or go by and see one of their friendly staff at any of their offices. Mississippi Land Bank. So thrilled to have them as a sponsor. So now let's turn the page and move over to Mike McCormick. He's the president of Mississippi Farm Bureaus Federation and someone I really enjoy spending time with. Mike, how you doing, my friend?
I'm great. How about you, Ricky?
I'm doing really good, man. I'm doing great. Hey, man, we got a lot to talk about. We'll come eventually before we get done in these couple of segments we'll spend together to the Leopold Conservation Award. The fact that it's coming to Mississippi, I think that is great news. But just before we do that, how are you doing?
Oh, we're doing pretty good. It's a good time to be in the cattle business that I'm in. We're getting plenty of rain, and the grass is growing, and the cattle are doing good. We had a really good winter last year, so everything is lining up for a good cattle year. But all that rain's been pretty tough on our row crop farmers around the state. So crops are off to a slow start, and there's a lot of work to do between now and harvest to get that stuff out. So it's kind of a mixed bag, just depending on where you are. But farming's farming. It's always different every year.
Well, listen, as you and I were chatting about before we went into the break, I've been fortunate to lease some hunting rights, some farms from the Dunn family up in the Mississippi Delta, and I've learned a lot about farming from Travis and Clint and their father, Dwight. But, man, it's feast or famine. You think about last year, it was already kind of evident as we got into this part of last year that that finding rain was going to be hard. And, it goes from, especially in the southern part of the state, going from not having much rain to having too much rain. But that's the way it is with farming, isn't it?
It is, and you got to love it, and it's got to be something inside yourself that you're born with to make you want to do it. I don't know that many business people look at it and say it's a great business model to put that much risk into something with the profit margins as small as it is. And you're right. The Mississippi Delta, they're blessed with great soils and flat ground. They can do some irrigation that we can't do in South Mississippi. My farmers in South Mississippi are the ones that really took it on the chin last year, and I'm really worried about them. They've got to have a good crop this year. The banks are talking kind of tough to a lot of them. So we need a good crop year. We need a good fall so they can get the crops out.
So we'll actually talk about farmers again in just a minute and the role that they play. 90% of land in Mississippi is privately held, so conservation efforts on private land are really important. And you look at the percentage of that land that is some farming of some sort, whether it be timber farming or row crop or whatever the situation might be. They're critical, and the role they play in conservation efforts in Mississippi are really, really important. Listen, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, Mike, but for the 3 farms that I lease, I have a little family hunting club. A couple of my friends hunt with me, and we formed a little LLC. But Farm Bureau does, we have insurance for the little club through Farm Bureau, and the service that I have gotten over several years, many years actually. For about 10 years, almost 10 years, I've been leasing land in the Mississippi Delta. Farm Bureau has satisfied my needs as it relates to that. That's a great service. I mean, I know that hunting clubs are not where you're going to make your bread and butter, but you do try to hit on a lot of cylinders, don't you?
Well, we do. Farm Bureau was set up in 1922 to be the voice of agriculture, to be the voice of the farmers, and we just were there to solve problems, whether it's on Capitol Hill or here in Jackson. And in the 1940s, all of our folks said, "Hey, we can get insurance in rural areas." So we started our insurance companies. They've been pretty successful since that time. We continue to grow that. It's not what I do. I never sold an insurance policy to be in my role. You got to be a full-time farmer. So we've got some insurance guys a lot smarter than me that are over there trying to make sure that all of that all adds up. But we want to make sure that we keep the farm in Farm Bureau on the insurance side of things. So we want to be the go-to place for our row crop guys to get insurance and for people like yourself. So we put a lot of time and effort to make sure we didn't lose our roots in that process.
Well, I mean, you guys play such an important role as it relates to watching legislation really across the U.S. and especially here in Mississippi and in Washington, D.C., but just making sure that legislation and policy is enacted in a way that is beneficial to farmers. And that's a full-time job. I understand that. It takes a lot of hard work by a lot of people. This past legislative session was here in Mississippi was so important. In fact, I have the Speaker of the House coming up later this week on my other show, the Ricky Matthews Show, and I've had Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann recently and others talking about how dynamic this particular legislative session was with all the issues they had to deal with. Healthcare is a big issue in our state. We need to continue to have that conversation. But in spite of the fact that they probably didn't get everything done they wanted to get done, we did make some progress. And actually, some part of that progress relates to the Farm Bureau, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and we were able to get a law passed this year that's going to allow us to get in the health plan business. There's about 10 farm bureaus across the United States doing this particular plan, and I think as we move forward, I think it's going to be the answer, just like it was in the 1940s, of us being able to help in a different way than maybe the Medicaid expansion or some of the other things that you saw. It would be a private deal. But what I'm hearing from our members, especially the kids that are coming out of college, coming back to the farm as they can't afford the insurance that's on the market. So we started looking around to see if there was a role that we could play, and I think there is. It's a specific spot in this. It's a health plan. We can talk about it another time, but that was a big win for us to be able to get some clarity into that, to let us start the process of starting this conversation about what we can do at Farm Bureau.
Actually, we'll dive deep into that on my other show, the Ricky Matthews Show, on a Thursday. Okay. That show on that day goes into the Mississippi Delta and Jackson metro area, including here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So we'll definitely do that. 51% of Mississippians live in rural areas. And so a state like Mississippi has specific challenges that are created as a result of that. And we've always got to stay focused on all these issues, and the one that you mentioned as it relates to healthcare and insurance related to that is a really important issue. So congratulations on getting that success. And I know it's not going to be easy to roll that out. It's a complicated issue, but I think Farm Bureau is in a great position to be a really good provider in that area. Y'all have to be excited about that.
Yeah, we're really excited, and we had some wins on the farm side of things. Protecting our private property from foreign investment was a big one that we were involved with, and some others. But I'll go back to something that a former legislator, Mr. Tommy Reynolds, told me one time. He told me, Mike, if there was nobody at the Capitol lobbying for what we do for farmers, it'd be okay. Those are things that we always want to help our farmers, but we've got to have somebody at the Capitol to be the voice of rural Mississippi, because without Farm Bureau, there's nobody down there every day talking about what's best for rural Mississippi. We get lost in a lot of different areas and conversations, and that's what we spend a lot of our time looking at. If we're going to do tax elimination, if we're going to work on our taxes, what does it do to our local county taxes? What does it do to our roads and bridges? What does it do to rural areas of the state? So Farm Bureau is very active in that. I'm very proud of that, and it's something that we do very well.
I think you're right about that. I feel the same way about wildlife issues, that we don't have a single organization that's going to watch it day in and day out focused on wildlife issues. So I think it's one of the reasons why SuperTalk Outdoors has kind of found a niche as, shining the light, creating some sunshine around some of these issues. But boy, I tell you, as a result of this last legislative session, some bills went through that shouldn't have, and other bills went through that you would have thought would have flown, like the wild turkey stamp, for example. I still don't quite fully appreciate what happened to stop that as it was passing the finish line. But it's just another indication. And I think there's a great conversation happening in conservation organizations around, okay, now, okay, that shouldn't have happened. What do we need to do to be more engaged? And how can we make sure that the things we want to happen, the things we don't want to happen, don't happen? And it's, you know what, it's easy. It's the legislative situation, the process, especially these days with so many complicated issues facing them, it's easy for things to fall through the cracks. It just as much for wildlife issues as it would be for farmers. That's why you've got to have someone paying attention to it. Yeah.
Well, I think this last legislative session, they had some really heavy things on their radar that they had to deal with. And I'm not sure that they got across the finish line with a lot of that, but that kind of took all the wind out of the sails of everything else. And it seems like, to me, this is just my opinion, it looks to me like we take more and more and more things to the last weekend to conference. And you can talk to them on the House side about it and talk to them on the Senate side about it. They pass different things, and then you're out of it, and then something pops up on the last day, gets voted on, and it's out of there. And I think that's what you see of what happens to your bills that wasn't like you thought it was going to be, and then some that didn't make it across the finish line, maybe got caught up in a totally different conversation about why somebody wasn't happy somewhere else.
When we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Mike McCormick from Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to SuperTalk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studio. You know, in a world where honesty and dependability are rare, Austin Seals and Jordan Blissett at Open Season Property stand out with their commitment to integrity and hard work. With a background in agriculture science, marketing, and hunting land development, this team offers a real service that you can rely on when buying or selling real estate. Whether it's your family property or your first piece of ground, they understand the significance of every single transaction. Specializing in recreational land, poultry, farms, investment properties, farm and timber lands, and more, they are here to meet all of your real estate needs. So give Austin Seals and Jordan Blissett at Open Season Properties a call today and experience the difference. We're thrilled to have them as a sponsor. So let's get back to our conversation with Mike McCormick. He's the president of Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. And, there's so much we could talk about. But one thing that's really important, I love giving awards out, especially when they're worthy. In the case of this new award, for Mississippi, that is, the Leopold Conservation Award, it holds farmers and ranchers and forest land owners up as examples in the work that they're doing in the conservation side so that others can take their lead. This is an exciting development, isn't it, Mike?
It is. It's been a dream of mine. It's something that we've wanted to do, and I've challenged my staff over the last several years to say, hey, we need to spotlight farmers that are doing a great job so we can tell our story and let these people that paint us as the bad guys that are ruining the planet and show them that that's not what's happening at all. You hunt on some land in the Delta, I'll bet you they take fantastic care of that because they want to pass it along to their children and grandchildren so they can do the same thing that they were done on. So we had our communications director at a meeting, and he ran across the Leopold Foundation and what they were doing, and we decided that instead of us reinventing the wheel, we would go in with them and bring that award here because, quite frankly, a lot of the people that get this kept classified as the Nobel Peace Prize of conservation. So we struck on a great organization that has the same mission as us, and look forward to bringing them here and showcasing our farmers in Mississippi with this award.
Yeah, it's great. It's been made possible, of course, through the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation, then the American Farmland Trust, Farm Families of Mississippi, Mississippi Association of Conservation Districts, Mississippi Soil and Water Conservation Commission, Sand County Foundation, and the Nature Conservancy. You just look at that list and you realize that you've got some great partners in this effort. But at the end of the day, you're right. I personally have seen it with my own eyes. In fact, I'll tell you about the Dunn family. They manicure their land. I mean, they cut it. They are very aware of it. They, in certain areas, they protect their wetlands. They create duck habitat during the off season, the farming off season. They're just good stewards of the land because you're right. I mean, they're not interested in selling to some Chinese company. I can tell you that now. They are they are going to pass this land down from one generation to the next, and they want to have a reputation of being great stewards. But that story is not unique, is it?
No, and it doesn't get out. The bad things that you hear about that farmers are eroding the land or putting too much fertilizer or causing problems with the environment, all of that is just so untrue. So if we can bring something like this, start spotlighting it through our Farm Families of Mississippi campaign, get one farmer this year selected and start telling his story about what he's doing to conserve his land for the future. I think that positive story might change some mindsets of the people in the general public.
I think it will, and it will for other farmers who want to more appreciate what they might be able to do that maybe they're not doing. Is again, you're holding some up as examples who can kind of lead the way and start conversations about maybe there's some more things we can do. One of the things I noticed, speaking of being good stewards of the land, the advances in technology, Mike, are incredible. I mean, they don't want to put too much fertilizer out. They don't want to put it out at all if they don't need to, And you think about pesticides and all these other things. Technology is really helping them be way more responsible than the old days, isn't it?
Yes, it's just amazing. Right now, John Deere has more IT engineers than they do mechanical engineers. All of the things that we're seeing right now in the future just it's incredible, but it comes in at an incredible expense. So a lot of the machines are $1 million or more, and it doesn't take a large farm to need something like that. But all of it is geared to being more efficient, so you can hunt that elusive profit margin on the bottom. But it also allows us to be great stewards of the land.
Listen, I think the name is perfect. The Leopold Conservation Award, as I talk about Aldo Leopold, the father of the North American wildlife model, is what Mississippi built its success, its conservation son. Perfect name, brings more awareness to Leopold. Hopefully more people will read about his contributions. But Mike, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend. I look forward to having you back on my other show, and we'll talk more about the healthcare provision and what you guys are going to do to satisfy that.
I would encourage you to visit our website or go to the Leopold's website and apply. If you're in Mississippi, there's a link that you can click on. It'll show you where the application is. Comes with a $10,000 award, a crystal vase, and an award. And we're going to have a statewide official give that out at our convention this year on Friday night in the first weekend in December. So it's going to be something that everybody wants to be a part of, and we'd love to have you.
Sounds great. This has been Mike McCormick, president of Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. As I always end every show, stay safe when you're in the outdoors. Always put safety first. God bless you. We'll see you next week.